And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say it
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to Hack City. Joe DeLeone, Sean Anderson, 2 former college football players from the University of Rhode Island. And today we are recapping week 2 of FCS football action. We're going to go deeper on the Montana-North Dakota outcome, as well as thoughts on South Dakota State and Incarnate Word, plus lots of crazy scores across the FCS landscape. Apparently, Separation Saturday is on week 2 of all weeks. That early, we have no idea what we're doing because things are already changing, and nobody does because of the craziness. Before we unravel that craziness, Sean, can you share with our listeners a word from our friends over at BetOnline?
Yeah, this weekend's madness didn't lead to a very positive betting outcome, I think, for either of us betting on football, but it was the best. Week 1 NFL was back, and my strategy at the end of the day for NFL was I'm just going to bet on guys that I have in fantasy. I'm going to double down on the chance of my happiness or the chance of my despair. It's a dangerous game, but we had some nice wins to close out Sunday. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Use them. The computers and the stats and the analytics are smarter than you and your brain. You'll learn it the hard way like I did this weekend. Think you know your stuff. Get in on BetOnline's $200,000 mega contest to pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200K. Head to the website today to get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here.
All right, we're going to start things off at the water cooler. Anyone who doesn't remember that segment, it's where we just go around some of the key scores that aren't the big games. We're going to recap what happened around FCS football. These are games that we didn't necessarily get eyes on, but just scores that you need to know if you missed out. The first one that was pretty big this weekend, Sean, Campbell knocked off Western Carolina. That was a game that certainly was unexpected because we were hyping up Western Carolina to be a top team. I kept them in my ballot at the very, very end, but they lost 24-17. I'm curious if we're going to find out if this Campbell team has some chops, but disappointing for Western Carolina after they showed us so many great things, especially from Cole Gonzalez against NC State.
Thanks for showing up, fighting Heaths. I'm sure we won't get a long string of tweets from him, but it was a big...
I'm surprised he didn't tweet at us after the game. I'm a little sad.
I think he was going through it. It was
sorry, Heath. We're nice to you this year. We're sorry. You were nice to us. We're really sorry that you guys lost. In all seriousness,
Campbell had a big day for quarterback Chad Masco Jr. and an odd, rare 3-pick game from Cole Gonzalez. They did not have that offensive fluidity that we saw at the end of last year and this season. So Campbell got the win. Campbell's a fine football team with a good quarterback.
St. Francis gets the first FCS upset of the season over Kent State, 23-17. I think the funniest part about this in our Hack City College Football League, I am Kent State, and I almost narrowly lost to FCS Northeast or whatever team I was going up against. Literally, it came down to last-second scores for me to retake the lead and win by a couple of touchdowns. That's not important to the context of this, but St. Francis gets the first dub of all teams, and not usually a team expected in the NEC to be knocking off MAC opponents, but quality win.
Yeah, I'd say the St. Francis one was probably the most fun. We've had the Montana State win, we've had the Idaho win, which we'll get to, and the Southern Utah. It was a crazy weekend, but St. Francis, big week for them. Kent State, they had a brutal field goal miss when it was still winnable for them, and they threw a red zone interception. So the red flash, you do that, then you have a real shot to win it, and they did. Happy for St. Francis, PA.
Yeah, you did mention Southern Utah did almost knock off UTEP 27-24. But the other FBS upset, this is the big one because I had this team as a big mover on my ballot. 17-13 over Wyoming after they almost gave Oregon some serious fits. That is Idaho. No quarterback, not needed.
Can't wait to see what happens when this team starts playing in the FCS because we've gotten 2 doozies from them against
I love their post-game videos.
FBS opponents. The post-game chant, we chew tobacco and we spit. If you ain't Vandal, you ain't. Yeah, oh, it was great. It fired me up. The fellas were happy.
Man.
I like the post-game plane ride videos with the coach and the team and everyone. It feels like it's good vibes in Idaho this year, and they have reasons to not have good vibes going into this season. But they're a good program. They're well coached, and they're a riser on my poll as well.
So I have a system that I used last year, and I kind of reworked it this year for how I'm constructing my ballots. Completely started from scratch in week 2 because I think I said this last show. I think that's the way to do it. You should never just look at the ballot and be like, I'm going to move this team up 2 spots. I'm going to move that one down. Did that a little bit in week 1 because we didn't have enough of an outcome to like really build a ballot. But the biggest riser that I had out of any team that went from not being on the ballot at all to being, I moved them up to 14. I really don't care if people think this is an overreaction. They have 2 great wins, a ranked win, and then a strong win over a team that's been consistently ranked in Gardner-Webb. I'm talking about Wofford, who beat Richmond 26-19 this weekend. Wofford's got some juice. I wouldn't be shocked if I don't end up getting burned by them and they don't end up maybe slowing down a little bit after this hot start. But you got to give recognition for an FCS team that's 2-0 with a ranked win. I kept Richmond on my ballot. So this is a nice start to the season for the Terriers.
Richmond is not on my ballot. I was not high on them.
You took Richmond off?
They were never on.
Oh.
I was not high on Richmond. They lost a lot. They didn't return enough excitement for me. And they lost to Wofford, who we have noted this season.
Did you rank Wofford?
I don't believe so. Maybe in the low 25s, maybe in the low 20s. Regardless, Wofford has been a team that's been hard to get a grasp of. Are they good? Are they not good? Because they can have big wins like this, but then they lose confusing ones that head scratchers.
Yeah.
The Wofford 3-headed monster of Odom, Ingram, and Watkins. Richmond just couldn't stop them. The quarterback was sharp, the running back was sharp, and the receiver uncoverable. It was a good win for Wofford. Happy to see one of my predictions right with Richmond being sus.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm like completely out on Richmond just yet because their 2 losses are to Wofford. I'm hoping that Wofford is actually a good competitive team, only losing by a score, and their other loss was to Richmond. So I'm not gonna completely rush to judgment just yet. I understand though any skepticism if you wanted to throw any other teams in there. Speaking of a skeptical team, Charleston Southern beats Furman. Furman is off to a rough start. They played Ole Miss, so we can't really.
That's tough.
Yeah, we can't really quantify that game too much. 76-0 against Ole Miss. 24-20 loss to Charleston Southern this week. Yeah, Charleston Southern, I'm not, this isn't a Wofford situation where Charleston Southern is like a climbing team. No, they have historically been a pretty brutal program. Not a good start for Furman. And this really feels like, and why I'm like mega dropping Furman on my ballot. You're losing at all of those guys that you lost last year. Your quarterback, there was just one of the most picked apart rosters, and it's kind of clear to see that they're trying to get themselves off the map. There's Matt. There's still recoverability here because it's only week 2, but disappointing start for the Paladins.
I didn't even catch that map crossover.
Yeah, you're half asleep.
Regardless, Furman could be the first year that we've been doing this show where they're out of the mix. It's only week 2. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. They were a big faller on my poll. I think I might have booted them even. This is a bad loss to start the season, but it's only week 2. The polls are a nice, fluid, moving entity. So if they string off 4 in a row, I'm sure they'll be back. I'm sure the reaction to my poll is I'm gonna get destroyed regardless.
Where did you move Furman?
I think they're off.
Oh, I took them off too.
Yeah, they should be off. This is an awful loss.
Yeah.
It's an awful loss, but it's only week 2. There's tons of season left. Furman, keep your heads up. If you string off some wins, I'm sure you'll be back on.
See, I don't know. I need to make sure to post my ballot this week. I didn't do it last week. I don't know why, but I feel like people are going to throw the Wofford thing at me for bumping them up as high as I did and then taking Furman off. I don't know why I'm circling back on Wofford, but they're like one of the few teams that has 2 FCS wins.
Yeah,
that has to mean something. It's week 2. The ballot is going to drastically change. I'm rooting for the Terriers though. They got a cool logo. I like their logo. SEMO beats UT Martin 45-42. 6 touchdowns from our boy Paxton DeLeone. Big game for him. We know that UT Martin's a quality program. I don't know what it is, but it just always feels like SEMO and UT Martin are just like kind of beating each other. I don't know what it is. It's kind of like trading places here, but Laurent, man, maybe he's on a little bit of a Walter Payton type ascension here.
Yeah, we're going to hear more about that stat line in Fat Stats later on in the show. This was a crazy game, double overtime between two programs that were good last year. Southeastern Missouri State was solid. UT Martin was ranked on my poll at the end of the season. Good offenses and a great battle. Kincaid Dent, no slouch either. I know Laurent had the bigger stat line, but Dent still went for 277 and 4 touchdowns. It was a good day for both teams. Really fun FCS football game.
Yeah, and I don't know why I remembered this of all things to remember, but they quite literally the past 3 years they've been trading places. It went 2021 UT Martin, 2022 it went SEMO, 2023 it went back to wait, I think I had it went back to UT Martin last year. So they just keep going back and forth, and SEMO gets them back this year. It's the most seesawish, hilarious rivalry apparently that we have in FCS football. Drake beats EWU 35-32. Talk about a bad loss. We all know what Drake is. What the hell, EWU? I guess FCS powerhouse Drake? Drake! That is such a reference that like nobody's gonna get.
What a mess of a game.
Do you get that reference?
Yes, I get that reference.
Okay.
EWU fumbles on their last possession of regular time, and Drake misses a field goal to send the game to overtime. Both offenses were good. EWU was running almost a wildcat where the running back was occasionally throwing the ball. Efton Chisholm caught a touchdown from the starting quarterback Vesperas and the running back. EWU had to settle for a field goal in overtime, and Drake wins it on a crazy touchdown pass. This was just this week of college football at every level was maddening. This one I just had to chalk to a crazy game. I left EWU on, I think, at 25. Awful, hideous loss. If the Furman fans come after me, that's fine. I like that EWU offense.
Wait, you had EWU on there?
I kept EWU on. They have a good offense, man. This
God.
Is
okay, now you have no logic. Now you're okay.
I like Vesperas. I like what they can do. They still put up 32 points against Drake.
You can't. I'm sorry, you can't leave EWU on after losing to Drake.
Dude, I still like that team. I still think they're a good team. This was a crazy game though.
Just throwing darts on the board.
I'm sure.
To get to the prime game here. North Dakota beats Montana 27-24. Sometimes when we watch games and we recap them, it's easy to do, well, this, and this went wrong for said team. I don't really think that that's the case in this matchup between North Dakota and Montana. I think we were quickly caught up on the fact that this North Dakota team is really good. That was like my main primary takeaway from this. Montana played a really good first half. They were getting chunk plays. Gilman had the long rushing touchdown. And then North Dakota just chipped away. It wasn't even like they had a big passing touchdown or like a really big broken play, a punt return or something that got them back into it in the second half. No, they just stepped up, played really good defense, and they chipped away, long drives to get them back into it in a position where they could kick a game lead taking field goal. I don't really want to overreact to this. I really don't. I know that some Montana fans, and it sounded like on Twitter that they were frustrated by their team's performance, but I wouldn't do that. I feel like an adult that I was not higher on North Dakota coming into the season. I talk about like me completely reworking my ballot. I threw them all the way into my top 10, and I put them over Montana. I'm not going to fall for the trap of, oh, well, this team beat this team. Why didn't I have them ahead of them? North Dakota showed up that they were the better team against Montana at home, and they pulled out the win. I think it's a very close margin, though. I don't think there's really much separation. These are still both top 10 teams currently that could finish as top 5 teams.
We're simpatico there. I had North Dakota one spot over Montana. Due in part to when I didn't have a vote, one of my biggest pet peeves was in the week of, if there were two very good teams and one beat the other, I would yell on this show. If you could find those episodes, I please do. But I would yell on this show, why are they ranked higher if they just lost to that team? And I would be a raving lunatic. And now I have the option to make a decision on it. North Dakota won that game. I'm gonna put them. I'm gonna put them a spot over Montana. If we want to go talent for talent on paper, it's pretty close. Gavin Zebarth is a legit running back in the FCS. And are we going to start a dialogue about the quarterback factory that is North Dakota, going from Schuster to now Rampho?
I guess.
And Rampho's not putting up great big numbers. He's not. But he's getting the job done. He's running the offense really well. He's moving the ball when he needs to. He's good with his legs. He makes fine decisions. This North Dakota team was impressive. Montana, it looks like Ayat is really starting to... He's taken the stick. It looks like he's going to be their one. He dominated the snaps. Logan Fife still gets in, though, for 2 snaps, or at least 2 pass attempts.
Well, yeah, it was more than 2 snaps because he had that long, he had like a long scramble that he stepped out of bounds that could have been
I think if Montana is going to be upset about anything in this game, it should be only getting Eli Gilman 8 carries. Activate that guy. You need to get that guy going. Get him 15 carries. Get him 20 carries. When I'm going through fat stats, I see teams that are struggling, but if they have a good back, I see 35 carries for this dude, 30 carries, 25 carries. These are teams that are committing to running the ball. And you have a diverse backfield with Gilman and Osmo, but that's still only 16 carries between the both of them. I think that Montana really needs to start leveling up their run game and committing to it.
That was, I think, like where if you're giving up a lead in the second half, that's always going to be like the first thing I point to. That's always going to be the first thing that I come back to is you had the opportunity to just kind of drain out the clock and drain out the game. You got to finish those drives. That was where if we're going to point to some concern, it's them not being finishers better in the second half, and especially again like you talked about running the ball, finding success on the ground to just really, really slow the game down and put it in your favor. That is the bread and butter of most FCS teams. A lot of FCS teams play Big Ten style football where it's get at the line of scrimmage, under center, run the ball, run out the clock. And you have to do that better in the second half. Again, this is why I say I don't think that this is any indictment on Montana and rather an indication of how good North Dakota is that Montana looked really good in the first half. They were getting all of the big chunk plays and the defensive stops that you would see from a top team in the FCS. They just didn't finish in the second half. It's just focus, it's attention to detail, and it is having a closing intention when you're going up against a team and you have a big, not big lead, but a safe cushion.
I think Montana is a team that is talented enough to control the tempo of the game at whatever pace that they should desire. It didn't feel like they had that control in this matchup. Additionally, the late game bubble screen with everything on the line for Montana was so stupid. I yelled at my phone watching this game I'm just anti-screen. I'm anti-bubble screen. Sometimes it works. I get it. But it feels like such a default safety play just to get a ball connected from the quarterback to the wide receiver. It doesn't feel like it's really schemed up. I didn't love that, and that really hurt Montana's chances at having a makeable field goal because they had to take a 55-yarder after that.
Yeah, that was also the disappointing part is it felt like that final drive, they convert on the fourth down, and then you're not able to get yourself in a stronger position. For a peel back on FCS specialists, there's really not a lot of guys that can connect on those 55-yarders at the FCS level. There's maybe a small handful that are buried on G5 rosters, or not buried, but like spread around G5 rosters, and a couple that are on these SEC Big Ten type teams. There are so few that can connect on those field goals. So it stinks that's how the game ends. The other game that we wanted to touch on here, your typical South Dakota State splattering against a ranked team. Incarnate Word, they beat them 45-24. They come back after what was a disappointing loss to a team that they were hoping to upset. And they just very quickly reminded us, hey, just because we played Oklahoma State last week, that's not us. The game got away from us a little bit. We got pushed around just a tiny bit more than we wish we did. So we're going to come around and we're going to put all of our energy and take it out on Incarnate Word, which is exactly what they did, smoking them by more than 20 points.
This game was a little closer than the score indicates. It was a Incarnate Word battle. They had a one-score deficit in the fourth quarter.
What?
Deficit in the fourth quarter. They were only down by 7 points.
That's the worst verbal flub that we've had on the show.
That was not great. That was
well,
really...
I mean, they did kind of defecate on them. Win by 20 points against a ranked team. You're getting shitted on.
I was not trying to give you an oop there for that one. That's regrettable.
I should have just taken it instead of calling you out, because that was one of the best oops that you maybe have ever given me.
Oh, my apologies. It doesn't help Incarnate Word that South Dakota State cracked open the second half with 4 straight touchdown drives on their first 4 drives. That's hard. That's what a really good team does. They run the ball. Amar Johnson had a huge day, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then South Dakota State doing what South Dakota State does, 233 total yards on the ground. And Wildy, they got another guy. They got another receiver that could be a difference maker. 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, made it look easy. South Dakota State revamped, energized, and UIW did not have a bad game. Calzada had a good game. They hit a bit of a buzzsaw. What do you do about that? What do you do if you're fighting and you're battling and you're keeping it within 1 score, but South Dakota State just keeps on grinding out the touchdowns? It's so hard to get over that hump and beat them.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I love about this, Amar Johnson, you pointed out the day that he had 233 total yards and 2 touchdowns. They're able to find and replace Isaiah Davis pretty quickly. And we knew that Amar Johnson, who he was last year, because he was a contributor in that backfield. But like, to have similar production to your top guy with somebody who was already a part of the program and was a contributor last year, I mean, like, that's awesome. And that always points to the scheme's great, and the offensive line is as downhill as they've ever been, that they're able to create these types of rushing lanes, again, against a ranked team. That's how you win games late in the year, when you play a North Dakota State, when you play South Dakota, you play these top FCS teams, these highly ranked teams that are going to maybe match up better with you along the lines of scrimmage. Are you able to get that push to generate some big yards from your running back to close out games? Yeah,
it's nice to see a mid-season form win from South Dakota State, and a good amount of potential from Incarnate Word to be a real battler this year within the landscape. I wasn't too down on them. It was a good game. I still like what Incarnate Word and what they can do this year.
Fat stats, what do you got for us?
This week was bonkers. We've got some big lines. Lafayette wide receiver Elijah Stewart, 15 catches, 244 yards, and 1 touchdown. It was a crazy game against Monmouth. Youngstown State running back Bo Brungard, 10 carries, 194 yards.
Another cool name.
3 touchdowns. Stony Brook running back Roland Dempster. 3 good names right here for FCS football players. 19 carries, 160 yards, 3 touchdowns. Next up is Stetson quarterback Brady Mites, 29 for 49, 392 yards, 5 touchdowns and a pick. Don't like the pick, but you throw 5 touchdowns, you get on the list. Chattanooga wide receiver Sam Phillips got fat with it. 8 catches, 195 yards, and a touchdown. Lamar running back Kalan Griffin, 23 carries, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns. The FCS darling of Jamie Williams, Central Arkansas running back Shunderick Powell, who's fantastic. It's not just Jamie that likes him. 17 carries, 126 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. He also had 1 catch for 69 yards and a receiving touchdown. Big day for Powell. Incarnate Word quarterback Zach Calzada, 31 for 39, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 43 rushing yards against South Dakota State. SEMO quarterback Paxton DeLeone, we already got to him now, 34 for 63, 376 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Is the air raid alive in SEMO? We say yes. Southern Utah running back Tarji Lamson, 20 carries, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns versus UTEP. Joe, is there anyone that's sticking out for you?
I always gravitate towards like the 250 yard plus rusher or receiver, but we don't have one of those today. Oh, no way. We got Elijah Stewart. But the one touchdown. I like DeLeone, but 63 passing attempts is criminal. Holy crap. Run the ball a little bit. Just try. I'm going to go with Elijah Stewart. I mean, that's impressive. 15 for 244. That's
a big fat day. I am going to lock in on Shunderick Powell. I like that he got he mixed it up between the running and the receiving, even though it was only one catch.
I was gonna say I wouldn't call it mixing up. It's kind of a sprinkle.
You know, he took his opportunity and he caught and ran with it. So I like Powell getting 3 touchdowns and 200+ yards from scrimmage.
At Joe DeLeone, at Sanderson Radio, at Hack City Pod on Twitter. Subscribe, 5-star review. We'll talk to you later. Enjoy the rest of your week.